listening to Range Minded from Independence Indoor Shooting. This is episode 143, where we pick back up where we left off last week with Steve's journey into the Enhanced Concealed Carry class at the store. If you didn't listen to part 1, make sure you go back and check it out first. Otherwise, the rest of this probably won't make too much sense. As always, thanks for listening to Range Minded, and we hope you enjoy episode 143, the Enhanced Concealed Carry class at Independence Indoor Shooting, part 2. Was there anything that surprised you in the legal part, or maybe that you didn't know, or are you perfect?
Well, I'm not perfect, and I'm sure there was some stuff that popped up, but I can't really think of anything offhand.
Nothing that was like really jumped out at you?
I didn't realize that, because I spent a lot of time, like when they were going to constitutional carry, when the state was moving stuff over, even in the enhanced permit. I mean, I was kind of interested with what was going on, and I'm sure I've forgotten a lot of things, but there was nothing that was like, oh, I didn't realize that. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of it is common sense or whatever, but at the same time, I think a lot of people just don't think about what, they're trying, what the responsibility is, so it's definitely good to think about that and have somebody talk to, especially new concealed carriers, to say, hey, this is what's going on. This is, the responsibility you're bringing on when you start to carry a firearm, And I think as far as the class in whole, like there were definitely some aha moments for students. Like he went into to go and talking about like carrying firearms in schools or on school grounds. Yeah. And so like if you're dropping off your child, it's okay to have a gun on you as long as you don't get out of the car. Like you can have a firearm on you or in your car. But maybe one aha one would be like when the consideration of school grounds or school property. So if they're if they've rented a place for the graduation ceremony, technically that's now school property. And so carrying a concealed weapon would be a no-no on that property, whether the property is okay with it or not. Sure. So, interesting. Yeah. It was cool. There was a lot of information to soak in, and it wasn't overwhelming. Like I say, it wasn't boring either. But yeah, that's the good thing about having the time. You do have the time to be able to, ask questions and go over things in at a pace that people can understand. Because especially if you have new shooters and stuff, there's going to be a lot of questions, and I imagine there are probably a lot of questions in your class, right? Yeah, we had one gentleman that was asking a lot of questions, like the right ammunition to carry, like is it legal for this or that kind of ammunition, or certain liabilities with the kids around, like, which is good, because when you have somebody there that's able to answer those questions, it's a lot better than going to the gun counter and asking somebody at the gun counter, because they're probably not going to give you the correct information. You'll probably get a lot of opinion. Right. But you're not going to get the information that you really need. Well, and the same thing on with YouTube and the internet. I mean, you're getting kind of a one-way communication there, and so you're not going to be able to ask questions to a YouTube video, Yeah, and it's just so much more rewarding to be in the same building and hear the inflections in the voice, and like you're learning on more than one level. Exactly. Right? Yeah. And that's what we talked about too last week, about like taking notes, which is why I take notes, because I do better when I listen and then write it down. It's almost reinforced two different ways. So yeah. Yeah, it was fun. It was a fun class. And that was part of my New Year's resolution for the last 2 years was to spend some time in classes. And so it's nice to start checking boxes, I guess. Well, especially so early in the year.
How long is the legal portion of the lecture side?
So I didn't really look at my watch. You're probably close to 2 to 2.5 hours.
Oh, so it's like half of the actual classroom side.
Yeah, maybe a little more than half. So
yeah, because the whole class is what, 8 hours?
Yeah, 8 hours, and we're in the range about 2 hours, and so yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good, because I've been in enhanced classes that the legal portion was like 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, that means they're just flying through that information.
Yeah, that's not great. I mean, you really do want to have somebody who is either a lawyer or a law enforcement, whatever, take the time to really go over those things, because I think, like I said before, that's what a lot of people don't think about when it comes to carrying a firearm, is that you're going to have some legal ramifications after a bad situation, no matter what, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's I think it was eye-opening to a lot of the new shooters, like the responsibility of like having to actually use your gun. Is huge, is a big deal.
Yeah, it sure is. Did you have anybody that had to get reprimanded or anything like that? Obviously, you don't have to name names or descriptions or whatever, but always kind of find it interesting.
Unless you'd like, if you could send their driver's license information to me so I can get in touch with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not? No, there was even, well, at least in the shooting portion I was with, everybody was pretty solid. There was really, I corrected one gentleman where he was, part of the drill was to come back to high ready. And every time he'd come to high ready, that gun was pointed up instead of straight down range. And he didn't realize he was doing it.
Sure.
But, it was one correction that I was helping him with, and that was it. So it was pretty simple.
Yeah, that could be a lot worse.
How was your shooting, Steve?
It's always good. Actually, it's not always good.
Did the instructor give you a little bit of advice on things to improve on?
He wouldn't dare. No, it was good. Like, it's never good enough, but it was, I don't know.
Well, you were the best in the class, obviously.
Oh yeah, sure, absolutely. I would never say I was the best, because I'm not the best shooter.
Yeah,
I'm capable.
It's always interesting to go into a class and, even if you have a lot of experience, to get outshot by somebody, it is kind of a humbling experience, just that, because you don't know. I mean, you don't know other people's backgrounds that are, sharing the class with you or whatever. And, some people could be special forces or law enforcement or military or whatever, or have grown up around firearms, and they just have to go through the class, like you said, to get the paperwork or whatever. But it's definitely sometimes humbling. I've always found myself squarely in the middle when it comes to firearm skills. There's usually a fair amount of people better than me, but I'm definitely not the worst either. So I'm okay being in the middle.
There's always at least one very capable shooter in the class. That's kind of a sleeper, right?
Sure, yeah.
There was one kid in my group that he was a younger kid and kind of looked, very millennial.
Right.
Maybe like a mom's basement type of kid. But in the shooting drills, like, we did do a failure to stop drill.
Yeah.
And he was rocking them out fairly accurately, very fast.
There you go.
That's all that Call of Duty Warzone, dude.
Yeah, maybe.
Shit's super realistic now.
Especially if you put your VR glasses on, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's cool. Yeah. So you did have, you said you was mainly older people, but you had younger people, it sounds like, too, and some women as well.
Yeah, I did. And there was one gal, actually, I talked to her while we were waiting to get back into the classroom. She's just getting ready to pass the bar. So she's going to be her plan is to be a prosecutor. And it was just interesting to talk to her and just to get her story, I guess.
Yeah.
We didn't really talk a lot about shooting, but like why she'd even go to law school. She said she had a very good job, and she's already got her, was an associate. She already had a degree in something, and she just decided, I want to go to law school. Wow. And so she quit a good job to go to law school.
Interesting.
And it's just interesting that you have, and I guess I bring that up because you get so many different kinds of people taking those classes. It's not, I think we think stereotypically that it's either going to be a husband and wife, or somebody maybe that had a problem with domestic violence that decided to do something.
Or guys that really look like Steve.
Yeah. but it's interesting just to see who's taking the class, and it would be kind of cool to learn a little bit more about each person that's in those classes, and find out maybe the why or the who is taking those classes. Because then we'd really see who the Second Amendment is.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, because it does really I think taking classes really gets you out of your bubble. Because especially nowadays, sure. you look online all the time and you think, oh, everybody thinks or is getting into firearms for the same reasons that I am. And I think, seeing how far and how broad the Second Amendment applies to people in each individual situation really does kind of open your eyes to the importance of it, at least for me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good to see, like, and we talk about the 8 million new gun owners or the 20 million background checks or whatever. The Second Amendment is still being exercised,
right?
And when you see a full class, and Terry teaches classes, and he's always got full classes. Like people are eager to be responsible because they understand the importance of it. And there's still some people out there who are like, oh, I shooting my whole life. I don't need nothing.
Right.
But I think the majority of people are.
I can't believe you just
trying to be responsible.
I can't believe you just did an impression of me. That was really good.
Was it close?
Yeah, it was close.
I thought it was Nick for a second.
And I held my hand below my chin to try and mimic your beard. So
there you go.
Well, you wouldn't have that problem if you wouldn't have shaved yours off.
I know.
Yeah, you messed up.
Have I mentioned on here how much you look like Bill Burr now that you shaved your goatee off?
Hey, I'll take that as a compliment. Bill Burr's a stud.
And you're almost funny like him.
Almost.
Have you heard, just complete squirrel moment, but have you heard his thing about buying a gun?
I've heard it. It's pretty funny.
But I've been watching his new show on Netflix, and it's funny.
F is for family? Or
yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of silly. But you guys need to take a second and just and look that up on YouTube. It is funny.
Yeah, we should post it on the Facebook page. I think that a lot of people get a kick out of it.
And one thing I like about Bill Burr a lot is you don't really know where he stands politically, because he makes fun of both sides.
He's pretty equal opportunity for sure.
He's a real comedian.
Yes.
Yeah. And in fact, he even says that like comedians, well, it's just like his Saturday Night Live thing that caused so much ruckus a few months ago. It was hilarious.
As a comedian, you're not supposed to be afraid to offend people. Otherwise, you can't be funty.
Yeah. And I think Mark Twain said that there's no comedy in heaven because you can't make fun of anybody. I'm paraphrasing, but it was something kind of like that.
I like it. Yeah, I mean, that's... Go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
I was going to say, I've been watching a lot of his stuff, and every time I see him come on to something, because he's like trending right now on interviews and stuff.
Because he was a badass on Mandalorian.
Yeah, that's true.
What was his part in Mandalorian?
In the first season, he was a prisoner, and then, well, I guess he's a prisoner he was an outlaw in the first one, and then, spoiler alert, he's a prisoner in the second one. In the second season, rather.
And then in the season 3, maybe some people haven't seen it. Yeah, he's pretty awesome.
Okay, now I remember, because I always, when I see him, I think he's Steve Zimmerman. So, so I just thought that was you who they were.
But I need that.
Prison.
I need that thick Boston accent, and I can't quite get it.
Well, actually, go ahead. I
was gonna say, you got a little bit of his voice going on. It's just not as seasoned.
Not as seasoned. Actually,
I think he'd be a fun person to have a conversation with.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
I'd probably be offended by the time it was over, though.
You should get him on the show.
Yeah, I'll book him.
Whenever you're ready. Fun fact about Mandalorian, though, now that you bring it up, is if you look up some of the guns that they use for that, it's all like old surplus guns. And then Bill Burr's character, Bill Burr's character too actually has it's like a shoulder mounted gun that comes out and it's like automated or whatever. And it's funny because obviously if you're into guns and into the gun world or whatever, you start to pick up on which guns are which. And he definitely had a Ruger Mark III or Mark IV as like his shoulder mounted gun, but it was supposed to be like a laser. So to the uninitiated, it looked really futuristic or whatever. I'm like, that's just
They do that quite a bit, actually, with those guns. I was watching a movie one time, like a newer movie, when I worked at Taxel, and they had one of our pack lights as a laser beam gun from some alien force.
Huh.
That's awesome.
And it was funny because I was watching it, and I think I was like sitting in my living room one night, and I saw the movie, and I stopped it, and I rewound it, and then I took a screenshot, and I sent it to Chet, the owner of Taxel. I said, "Hey, is this one of our guns?" And he's like, "Oh, I didn't know that was out yet." I said, "Why didn't you tell us?" He's like, "Out was a secret."
Jet's cool. I like that guy.
Yeah, he was like, "Send me that so that we can post it on Facebook."
Yeah,
I was like,
right.
I'm sure we can get a better picture than me taking a photo of the TV.
Get some, get some marketing out of it. But it's funny how they take like real guns and use them as prop guns, or they dress them up a little bit. I watched I can't remember if it was
Han Solo's blaster was the same thing.
Yeah, it was a C96. I watched I either watched a documentary or I happened across some article about the guns of Star Wars and how they dressed them up, and it was like the Stormtrooper blasters are all old Sterling submachine guns because that's what the British armor had access to back when they made the first one.
That's awesome.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
Because we're on the topic of Star Wars, I have to shout this holster company in Washington out. So I have a friend in Washington named Tyler, and he owns a holster company named Tydex Holsters, and he specializes in Star Wars and Mandalorian themed holsters.
Really?
And they are extremely cool. He's a graphic designer, so he used to do a lot of like cut style holsters. Like he did one that was like the Millennium Falcon. He did one that was Yoda. He did he did one that looked like Han Solo's blaster, but it was for a Glock. But like the outside of it looked like the blaster.
Yeah.
And now he's been doing a lot of the custom printed plastic, and they're all Mandalorian Star Wars themes. And he does a killer job on like doing the like distressed look and making it look like the armor and all that.
Oh, like war worn or whatever, battle worn style.
Yeah, and I'll tag him on an Instagram post on our Instagram page because it's worth checking out.
That's cool.
If you're a Star Wars fan, like you're gonna want to look at his stuff. And I don't do that kind of stuff, and so I'm always like tagging him and showing like he does really good work. I don't know where I'm going with that other than that.
Nice. Yeah, no, it's kind of cool to see that. I mean, Star Wars definitely had a big influence, I think, on the firearms world. And there's no understating that for sure. And anybody that can do good work for that is definitely worth checking out.
It's only one of the most profitable movie franchises in history.
Yeah, so. No big deal.
And it's influenced so many different things in our culture. Like, I mean, who would have thought that you would take and design a holster company based around just doing holsters that are themed after that movie? And and
a successful holster company at that. Like people are buying it.
Oh yeah, and same thing with like guns. Like there's Cerakoders out there. They specialize in doing Star Wars stuff. There's
so wild.
People out there that have businesses based around making Mandalorian helmets. Just don't buy the one off Wish. I saw it was not lucrative.
I almost not the one off Wish, but I was gonna click the buy now option on one of those, but then I decided my wife probably wouldn't appreciate this sitting on our dresser.
Well, even like morale patches, like the Boba Fett symbol is a big thing that a lot of people do, and I've seen that on morale. Oh, yeah. I've seen that morale patch on a lot of gun cases, or just around the gun world as well.
Unfortunately, the Boba Fett or the Mandalorian helmet now is basically the Spartan helmet of the now. So
absolutely,
yeah,
it's going to get more out.
Yeah, that's true.
You spoke about patches, so another big company that I do some business with on Instagram, they're called Tactical Outfitters, and their logo is actually like the inside of the Boba Fett helmet, like the visor portion.
Yeah,
and they do a lot of Star Wars themed patches.
Oh, I am a patch hound. I love patches.
Yeah,
so they basically took over the what was the monkey.
Mil-spec monkey.
Mil-spec monkey.
Yeah, he basically picked right up where he left off.
Nice.
Gotcha.
patches. So.
Nice. Well, yeah, this is all about concealed carry classes.
we get tangents.
That's
right?
okay.
It's
No,
okay.
that's a worthwhile tangent. So was there anything just in general by the way the class was run, or anything we talked about a little bit, not necessarily that you learned, but anything by the way the class was run that either surprised you or that you're going to take away to your own instructor, kind of ideas?
Well, one thing, first off, I guess the first part of this answer would be, so Brian mentioned that he goes to a lot of concealed carry classes and does the legal portion. And he says the only one he's really willing to put his name and endorsement behind are the instructors at Independence, which I think is pretty awesome. Yeah,
that is really cool.
So that maybe that's just a selling point for you guys to say, oh, maybe that's where we should go. But I think that's pretty cool to be endorsed by somebody outside of the store.
Oh, for sure.
But as far as, I had some ideas for some other classes. I'm not going to say those on the air right now, but I'm going to start developing some curriculum for them. But there's so many more avenues once you take that class and you listen and you take notes. You'll start to realize that you really don't know anything about carrying a firearm or using a gun. And not that shouldn't sound insulting, but that should be motivating to take more classes and learn as much as you can.
Yeah, for sure.
And we're off air. We were kind of talking about the craziness that's going on, and we don't really know where firearms ownership is going to go. But don't let that be an excuse not to train. Actually, I think it should be the exact opposite. It should be more motivation to increase your knowledge base and to grow and step outside that comfort zone a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. Now's the time,
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm excited to see where you go with these new class ideas.
Yeah. There's some that I think they'll come in handy.
So when you were at the store this weekend, because I haven't been in there since last Thursday, was there any ammo on the shelf?
No.
Nothing.
No, it is so much worse than it was last time I was there.
Oh, geez.
And they're going to get some more in. They do have, I'm not going to say what caliber, they do have some that's getting ready to go on the shelf. I don't even know when they're putting it on the shelf. There's not a ton of it. I'll tell you, it's not 9mm and it's not 5.56 and it's not 22.
I put out a story today on Instagram for Sportsman's Warehouse in Meridian. Had 2 pallets of 9mm when I was there.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm sure it didn't last long, especially since I posted it.
Was that today?
Yeah, it was today.
Probably 5 minutes is as long as that lasted.
You should have texted me because I left Boise this morning.
Yeah.
I would have been over there buying some ammo. Oh well.
Shoot, it's okay. I'll let you know next time. I've been making it a habit. I had all my eyes and ears across the valley, letting me know where it's at, so I can share it with people.
That's good. I know of a place over here in eastern Idaho that hasn't been getting. Well, I shouldn't say they haven't been getting a lot of business, but they're fairly new and they have some pretty good connections, and so they get their ammo stays on the floor a little bit longer than some of the other stores.
I just want components. That's what I'm having trouble finding. I just want the components.
Really? You can't find component
I'm telling
pieces?
You what. So most of the ammunition manufacturers have everything but primers right now. They're waiting for primers.
Really?
Well, come on, China. Get us the primers that we need.
That's exactly the problem.
Yeah.
In fact, it wasn't CCI. They were waiting, like they went to Turkey to try and buy, millions of primers, but I don't know if it was a success.
Huh.
Can't remember I don't know what manufacturer it was. Off the top of my head, I'll have to find that out. But yeah, it's rough. I need 2 bolt carrier groups. That's all I need. 2 bolt carrier groups. I've got a couple of builds that that's it. That's the only thing I need to finish.
And you can't find them?
No.
Well, good luck, because I'm looking for one too. I even went to the gun show. I probably should have bought the one that I saw there, but it was $160.
Oof.
Yeah. Yeah. So there was one in Idaho Falls. there was an Anderson in Idaho Falls, and they wanted $180 for it, and I am not spending $180 for an Anderson bull carrier group.
Yeah, no thanks. Craziness. So actually, I got a good question though, is that for the class, did they provide, I mean, obviously you'd have to buy it, but did they kind of set aside ammo for people, or did you have to bring your own?
So most students had their ammunition, which is great. I don't know where they found it, but the academy did have some set aside for, not enough for every person in the class, but they had a few boxes set aside just in case.
Sure.
So that was a comfort. But if you're taking a class, don't think that they have enough for you and you're not going to buy any. Like I said, they only had just in case. It's been scarce. It's hard to find.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't assume that you're going to get it, but you can at least, if you need an extra box maybe or something, you might get lucky. But I would recommend bringing your own for sure. So
yeah, they're not hiding pallets of ammo for the academy. She only had a couple boxes set aside.
Right. Well, yeah, that's good to know though, because I mean, like we've talked about, there, sometimes places might do that, but then again, they might not, and it just depends on, honestly, probably what's in the store, and what's in that week, and they can't necessarily predict what that's going to be.
No, it's been super rough. I was talking to Levi, and in fact, I bought a couple of Roni kits, and they happened to had 4 of them in there, so I was like, "What the heck? I'll buy a couple of them." And I was sitting in his office with him. He's like, "I guess I better order some more," because he'd looked at 2:00. I guess it would have been Saturday morning.
Yeah,
that's usually when the suppliers start restocking. And by what time was this? I guess it was in the afternoon. They were gone, none, and they'd raised their prices on them $20 in 24 hours.
Jeez, that's wild.
Yeah, so I'm kind of glad I picked a couple of them up.
Yeah, because you've got them now, and I can't believe bolt carriers are that expensive too. Like at gun stores or whatever, gun shows or wherever. That's insane.
So now distribution's starting to kick up the prices to try and slow down a little bit, to try to keep the consumer demand down.
Right.
But yeah, it's not. It's going to be rough.
I have a carrier. I just need the bolt and the parts for it.
Oh, well.
So that might save me $60.
I might know a guy.
If you're lucky.
Yeah.
Jeez. Well, let's wrap up the enhanced concealed carry, part of it, at least a little bit. So you went through the class, you did your 99 rounds, except it was 120. Went through all of that. So now what's the next step to actually get the enhanced concealed carry license?
So in the class, once you, I guess you could say, graduate the class, you'll get a couple of different sheets of paper with some information. Mm-hmm. The one that's the most important is the one that you're going to take to the DMV. And now it's got the instructor's name. It's usually has reference to what curriculum is being used, because that curriculum has to be approved by your sheriff's office.
Right.
And so the instructors have to have a little bit of vetting as well. That's part of state law. And it also has who conducted the legal portion of the class as well. Mm-hmm. So that information is necessary on those certificates. And then there's the very top portion is the portion that you as the class taker has to fill out. It's all the important stuff like address, birth date, all that jive, because you have to go through a background check. So you have to have that information filled out before you go to your sheriff's office.
Right.
And they were saying, and maybe I can't remember who I was talking to. It might have been you guys. They were saying that Ada County is really backed up right now. So if you live in Ada County in the Boise area, expect several weeks to get your concealed permit back.
And expect to wait for a long time, because there's only one place you can go in the county sheriff, and that is the DMV here in Ada County, and it's super busy. Even if you have to just get your
they separated it. They separated it out now, so it's not
that's true.
It's
a different desk, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But
it's a different building.
Oh, is it a different building altogether?
Yeah, they took driver's licenses out of the same building that you did your registration in. Okay. So now the only thing in that building is
just DMV.
Yeah, just your licenses and then
permits. And so for Ada County, you have to call, you have to make the appointment,
right?
And they're like 2 weeks behind on scheduling appointments, and then it's a little bit of back and forth, and it takes a little bit. Other counties, like I know on my side of the state, Jefferson County, I'm pretty sure I can just walk in, give them the paperwork, do my fingerprints, and wait and get the card in the mail. So it really depends on your county, and each county can charge different amounts too. So
sure, yeah.
I can't remember what Ada County is. I don't know what any of the Canyon County or those other ones are.
Yeah, I think I remember Ada County being like $50 maybe. That's or somewhere between $35 and $50. So don't quote me on it, but that's what I remember at least.
Yeah, I know.
If it's any more than that, Mark will pay the difference.
Because I know Teton County, on the far eastern side of the state here, that's like $110 or $120.
Really?
They're the most expensive county in the state, but they're also one of the most progressive as well. So there you go.
Interesting. So yeah, you do have to go do that. Don't think just because you graduated from the enhanced concealed carry class that you're automatically going to get one in the mail or anything like that. You do have to go get that.
You have to make the next steps. Yeah,
you have to get that paperwork taken care of. So make sure you go do that. And I think that paperwork's good for like a year, I want to say, because I remember I put it off for the longest time, and it was like, I have to do this in 2 days, or I have to take the class again.
Yeah, and we're happy to take your money and teach you again.
Sure,
but why not just get your butt in gear and get over there and take care of it?
Yeah, definitely want to get that taken care of. Even now, I would actually even say, especially now, it's a good time to do it and get it taken care of. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So are you happy you took the class?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Anytime I can get that gray matter moving around in my head is a good thing.
Yeah. And now you can carry in more states and, for all the interstate travel you do all the time.
So much. Actually, I haven't been doing hardly anything this year. It's been really boring.
Yeah.
Well, last year. This year is just beginning, and I'm sure it's going to be the same.
Yeah, probably the first half or so of the year is going to be much of the same. So, so is there anything that you would, maybe that you think that you would add to a class if you had to teach your own enhanced concealed carry class?
No, I can't think of anything like for what Sarah taught and what Brian was teaching. I think it was pretty concise. I think as far as a student, if I was to take it as a student again, mm-hmm. I would come with a lot more questions. Do a little bit of research on why you're taking the class or what it entails, so you can present good, solid questions and try and stump the instructors, because other people probably have the same question you have, right? There's somebody that inevitably has the same question, so you might as well just ask it.
Yeah, and they might be too scared to ask a question, so you might be doing them a favor and helping out your fellow student.
Yeah, as an instructor, I love questions because it really it creates good dialogue in the class, and I can see where people need to learn or what to focus on in the material.
Yeah, for sure. So don't be afraid to ask questions if you can. Any other advice that you would have for somebody that's thinking about taking an enhanced concealed carry class, or any concealed carry class for that matter? Because I was going to say, I think Idaho is one of the only places that has an enhanced concealed carry class. I think there's a couple other states. I can't remember for sure. Just because you have the one permit, don't think you don't need the other, because having that enhanced permit is a benefit. Like, sure,
we already mentioned the reciprocity, but for me, more than that was the legal portion. I think it is incredibly important that you understand the legal side of carrying and using a firearm, because you can put yourself in jeopardy or your family in jeopardy. You can cost yourself a lot of money and grief just because you didn't know.
Right. Well, and even if you have the enhanced concealed carry, it might, there's still a lot of other opportunities to get more training, or even like, for example, get an Oregon concealed carry permit, because there are some states that don't honor ours and vice versa. And that might be something you want to, look into, especially if you travel to that state often,
And we teach the Oregon class. I mean,
right.
It's not a, once a month class. It's not terribly regular. But we teach that class.
Right.
So it's worth getting on the calendar and setting aside some time if you travel a lot.
Yeah, especially with Oregon being so close. So that's something you want to look into for sure. So,
and I guess one thing, that kind of stood out is just because it was kind of a funny story to listen to him tell it. The way he was telling the story was marijuana, like legalized marijuana. So,
oh, sure.
That's one thing that people don't, for some reason, really comprehend, that just because marijuana is legal in some states, and I say with air quotes because it really is still a federal law, that it's prohibited, and you might drive across to Oregon to relax a little bit and then come back over. If you have a firearm, or if that, just because it's legal in Oregon or Washington, that doesn't, I mean, you're prohibited. Like, you lied on a federal form if you're buying a gun, or you're going to have to rescind your permit if you get caught. So
right.
Don't do it.
Well, you can't even buy a firearm because it asks about it.
We talked about a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, sure is. Because you're not even supposed to buy it. You're that counts as lying on a 4473 if.
That's a federal document. That's a contract, basically. Like, it's a big deal.
Yeah, and that overrides any state kind of regulations or legalities there, I would say. So,
yeah,
gotta watch out for
sketchy.
that. Gotta watch out for that. Cool. Well, Nick, any questions you have for Steve about the class and anything like that?
No, I think he pretty much covered mine. I asked some of mine early, so.
Cool. Yeah, I was hoping Nick was going to make it. He was out of town. I think it would have been fun to have both of us in there.
Yeah,
we could have really given Sarah a hard time.
Yeah, I would have been. I was out of town too. Otherwise, I would have came and dropped by, because I took it. I think it was last year or 2 years ago, and I really enjoyed it. Like I said, mine was from Jim Love, but would have been fun to see how Sarah taught it and compare and contrast. I'm sure she did just as good of a job. She's a phenomenal teacher, and it would have been good to refresh a little bit as well. So,
another thing to keep in mind that's off topic of the concealed carry class, but it is still on the side of education, is talking to Gavin, who's the academy director. They will be adding more medical classes.
Oh, good.
Whether you carry a gun or not, get over there and get signed up.
Yeah, that's definitely a good thing. That can benefit everybody easily. So that's something you definitely want to get into if you can.
Yeah, 100%. That's more important than a concealed carry class sometimes.
Oh yeah, for sure. It has more broad. What do you want to call it? You're far more likely to need medical training than anything else. Right. Exactly. So. Cool. Well, I appreciate the great description and play-by-play of the class, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I can't wait to see how great you look on your enhanced concealed carry permit picture. Oh, I'm going to look amazing. I already know. Well, I hope you grow some facial hair. Well, we're going to post that on our social media. So. Yeah, we sure are. I'll find a cool T-shirt to wear or something. There you go. I'll wear a Trump 2020 shirt. I have my Biden shirts if you want to wear one of those. Oh, I actually need to buy a couple of those. Make a statement while you're exercising your Second Amendment rights. I got a whole slew of those coming out here in the next couple months. So okay. Be busy, hard at work. I need a couple. Perfect. All right, guys. Cool. We'll call it for this one. I hope you enjoyed, and let us know if you have any questions. podcast@iishooting.com or find us at Range Minded Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. And let us know if you've taken an enhanced concealed carry class or concealed carry class, what you thought, what you maybe would add, or any questions that you have, we'll make sure you get those answered. We always appreciate those. So thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next time.
All right. You everybody be safe.
All right. Take care, guys. We'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to Range Minded. Find us online at Range Minded Podcast on Facebook, or send us an email at podcast@iishooting.com. We're always happy to get feedback, episode suggestions, whatever you want to send us, really. And be sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and pretty much wherever else you get your podcasts from. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.